Hi there! Yesterday I was lucky enough to get a question from one of you, and so we're going to answer it today, and the question is all about sharing. I'm going to share the question with you in a little bit more detail. It says, my son loves Transformers, and he will not let anyone near him. How can I help him share? And should I be helping him share his precious toys? Really good question. Every time I hear a question like this, I always want to make sure that I'm answering in a way that lines up with the values of a family. So in this case, I did ask a bunch of follow-up questions, so I'll share some of that information. For example, I said, do you already have some rules in place for sharing? And she said, no, we do not. Also, in this case, it's sort of important sometimes to get a little bit more information about age, because there are some skills that kids need in order to share. So for example, if your child doesn't understand mine or yours, it's really hard to ask them to share or not to share. If your child doesn't understand stop or wait, that also can create a huge problem. If your child knows how to ask for what they want from other people, that would really be helpful in starting to set up a little sharing system. And if your child can resist the urge to pick up things that don't belong to them. If you've got all of that more or less in place, then I think it becomes easier to develop a bit of a set of expectations about sharing. So a lot of it is personal preference. I'm going to tell you where I sit on this. I'm not one of those people who believes that if child A is playing with a toy and child B comes along and says, can I play with it? I do not think that child A is obliged to say, okay, and hand it over immediately. If you're playing with it, you're playing with it, and I think it's perfectly okay to say, not right now, you can have it when I'm done. It's also perfectly okay to say, no, this is my personal toy and I don't want to share it with you. It does get more complicated when you have two boys living in the same house who want to play with the same thing. So what should this mom do? Oh, I'm so glad she asked. Okay, so first of all, you know me, and you know that I always want to start with setting up the expectations. So when a new toy arrives in the house, what are the things that you do as a family that make it work? So I'm just going to tell you some things that I've heard from other families. Some families will say, we take it out of the box, and if it's yours, you get to play with it for the first day, and then it becomes everybody's. Okay? That's one way to do it. The real key is making sure that before you open that shiny package, everybody is on the same page and it's consistent. Another family I've heard, this is Dana Abraham, she's at Lemon Lime Adventures, she says what works for her is each child has their own room, so whatever they want to keep away from the other children, they place in their own room. If something is in a common room, it's for everyone to use. So that's a really cool strategy. I just like the way that it's set up for everyone. Everybody has the same expectations. If I want people to play with it, I can leave it out. If I don't want anyone to play with it, I know where I can put it. So the question I have for this mom is, what's your storage situation? If you want to designate some toys just to be played with by certain children, where could you put them? If they have a shared bedroom, they might need their own bins. In my house, we have these things called keep boxes, and the kids don't go in each other's keep boxes. So if you really want something to be safe, that's a good place to put it, because they actually have their own bedroom that they share together, so anything in there could be played by either boy. I have two boys, she has two boys, so I couldn't wait to answer this question. Okay, as my kids were growing up, obviously they looked around and they saw things that they wanted and other kids had, and I said it was okay for them to run up and ask. It never hurts to ask. Maybe this kid is almost done with it. Maybe it's time for them to go home. Maybe they could use their negotiating skills. Oh, can I have it in 1 minute? Or you can have this and can I have this? That is no problem with me. I want my kids to feel confident in asking for what they want. That's me. Everybody's values are different, so you do what you're comfortable with. But I taught my children that it's okay to ask. However, it's also okay to say no. So if somebody says no to you, what do? You might need to actually work through this with your kids. You might need to go through a set of steps where you explain what the rules are, where you do a little pretend and you show them what the answer is, and then you ask them to work it through. So for example, if I'm playing with this pencil and you would like to play with it, I will show you what I want you to do. So you can ask me and I'll say, nope, or I'll say, okay, you can have it. So we'll actually play it out with the kids so they have that muscle memory when it comes to the behavior that we're looking for. So you can, if you want something that someone else has, and you've already established that it's in the common ground, or maybe it's something that they just got for their birthday, but you really want to be able to play with it, it doesn't hurt to ask. But you have to be willing to take no. If you hear a no, you can do one of two things. You can wait. So I don't know if you have a situation like this near your house, but when I moved to Toronto, we found that there are these parks and people just leave toys there. So the kids would actually have stuff to play with while they were outdoors. And the most popular items were those little toys that the kids scooted on. So if there's only one of them, one kid would be scooting and scooting and scooting and looking around because all the other kids are just like waiting for their turn. So if you ask and the child says, no, I'm using it, you can wait. And sometimes that's a good strategy. Sometimes some kids have the temperament for that. However, if you really want something and you've asked and they've said no, the only other option is to go and find something else. So that might be something that you have to play through too. You have to say, can I play with that? And your child will say, no, no, no. And you say, I will go play with something else. That idea of switching attention, sometimes it seems really natural to us, but it's actually a skill. It's a skill that develops, switching our attention from one thing to another. I don't know if you've seen babies do that. You know, the way they stare? It's actually literally because they don't know how to switch their attention very well. So sometimes they'll stare at something and they don't even want to look at it, but they're starting to cry. As babies get a little bit older, you'll see that change. You'll see babies turn away and look at something else when they don't want to look at it anymore. It's really fascinating to watch. But our kids grow up and they have to learn how to switch their attention elsewhere when the situation isn't working out the way they would like. Now, this is a lot for your kids to bring on board. I would suggest building this up as a family slowly, with visuals, with discussion. If your kids are into art and you want to do pictures or posters to put around the house, this is where I put my stuff, this is where you put your stuff, this stuff is for everybody, my stuff is in my room. Oh, actually I have a whole other sharing activity. I'll share it if people are saying, okay, we've tried all that and we're still having difficulty. I do have like a next level solution, but for now let's stick to the basics because we're just setting up the expectations. In this house, is this my stuff or is this shared stuff? Where do I put my stuff? Can I ask? And what strategies can I use if I hear the word no? So these are all things that we have to rehearse together because they don't come naturally. In this case, the mother who is asking, her child has autism. And so what I hear from my friends with autism is what they tell me is please don't ask us to be flexible in the moment. It's much, much easier if you just tell us what the rules are ahead of time. So I'm hoping that this strategy will just be a perfect match for her son, so that he won't be surprised when people ask him. He'll be comfortable saying no, and he'll know that if he doesn't even want to be asked, he can put it in a certain place and not have to deal with the hassle of negotiating with other people who might want to play with his very favorite stuff. It's okay to have your very favorite stuff, but it's also important that everybody has something that's available to them. So that's my side of it. I hope you agree. I'm interested to hear your reactions. Maybe you've worked out your own really special way. I think all moms would appreciate it if you want to add it in the comments, so please go on ahead. Thanks. Bye!